So, we go again. Number 43, the Darkness to Light Godcast. Welcome back if you're joining me again. Those that are coming in fresh, welcome to this Godcast and the work that I'm doing, part of the work that I'm doing within the Vortex. And this one is called For the Greatest Good. And it comes on the back of a very trying week, I think it would be safe to say, and much contemplation. There's been a lot of processing for myself. It's really challenging times just now, on so many fronts for so many people, myself included. In some ways, I go between, absolutely flying and doing great, and that's really where I like to my normal way of being. When you've experienced high levels of alignment, high levels of feeling good and being happy and being joyful and being in a flow state, which is what this is all about. It's about getting happy and enjoying your life. You've been in that place, and you would like to be there at all times. Unfortunately, that this life experience isn't meant to be like that. It's very much the yin and the yang, the darkness and the light. And that's why my story, Darkness to Light, from the ego and the lower self and all the kind of challenges that I faced in my previous incarnation, maybe incarnations, but this incarnation in this lifetime, up until the age of 24, 25, when, the wheels come off. And then for the last 28 years, it's been very much about learning a different way of doing things. And as always, I'm speaking from my experience, and I'm very much guided and inspired by the things that I'm seeing every single day. That's all I'm really doing, is talking about where I'm at and the things that are coming through me through this work, through the continuous expansion within the Vortex, within the mission. And week by week, part of that and part of the reason for doing this is to document, what's going on and where we're at and where I'm at and how we're doing and how I'm doing, So it's a really interesting process. It's not easy. I'll not lie to you. It's very challenging for anybody who's on the intentional path. There's something about, ignorance is absolutely bliss, where people are just going through their life, just bouncing from one thing to the next, or very unconscious, ignorant, unaware, just going through life in that way, for night out to night out to day to day, and just mumbling their way through life. That's where it kind of started for me. That's where it starts for everybody, isn't it? But for those who are awake and aware and intentional, and have been exposed to a different way of living and being, then it's very, very challenging. And I get why it's not for everybody. I really do. It's hard work. This is a graft. It can be a bit of grind as well sometimes. When it's going great, it's fantastic, but when it's not, it can be very, very challenging, because you're always trying to get back to that place of how you're able to be and feel. And for me this week, off the back of some really kind of contrast is a great way of explaining it. Abraham Hicks, the contrast. I remember one of my teachers asking me, "You enjoying the contrast yet?" And I felt like hooking him at the time. I really did, because my life was in such a state at that present moment, just at that when he asked me it, and it was a great question, because as with any great teacher, they'll push your buttons and they'll challenge you, and when you're not feeling it, that can be really, really difficult to stay in the pocket and to get the lessons as you're going through them. But I obviously knew I could handle it, and I was able to, and it's one of the best teachers I've ever had, are you able to enjoy the contrast when you're going through the pain and suffering? And that's one of the things that, that this world and the way that it is just now, and the challenges that we face, I have got my finger is on the pulse, because of the people that I see every single day, and the people that I work with and the stories that I hear, and it literally breaks my heart, if I'm honest. It really does. I find it so challenging. This work is so rewarding, but when people leave and they go away and you get a chance to process what you've just been part of, and when you're working with somebody at this level, you're in with them at a heart and a soul level, so you're literally going through it with them, and you understand how this goes together. Even, empathy, aye, but compassion for another human being and their suffering. It's very difficult not to get caught up in it. And in fact, I think you really need to get caught up in it at some level to be able to help them. Especially when you understand the power of intention, where you can actually see them as working out for themselves, and bringing in, even just by loving them, sending them love and including them, in your meditations and sending them love literally. That can be enough. But so obviously there's a connection there, and I've always felt, and I've often said that a part of that for me is helping people, by enabling them in some way, shape or form. It's difficult to explain, but helping them to basically shed the weight they're carrying. And that can leave an imprint on you. That can definitely take its toll on you. And that is one of the reasons over the years, and possibly where I'm at just now, my own physical health, as to, the stuff that I've taken on from, so many just hard luck stories doesn't cover it. Some of the things that I've been, blessed with, and being able to get through with people in terms of opening up and telling me where they're at with their life, and the challenges they've faced at different stages in their life and what they've been through. But obviously it does leave some sort of it has an impact on you, which can be very, very negative, and I'm working a lot just now on how I'm able to do that and not take it on, so that it doesn't make me sick, and it doesn't. Again, it's very difficult, and this world and where it's at and the challenges that people face. I'm half smiling just now, and it's just you've either got to laugh or greet, because when you hear and you see and you can feel where people are at, not just on a personal level, in terms of the people that I'm blessed to work with, but on a world level, when you can see one wee swatch of the news. I've not watched the news for a long time. I tune in and it'll come up now and again on a feed, and you'll see when you'll hear the kind of stories. For a wee while there, probably a few months back, I was tapping in and tuning in for whatever reason, just to kind of see where the world is. And over the last wee bit, I've been away for that. I've been keeping well back for that and keeping my distance from it, and feeling much better because of it. But obviously there's when you're tuned into the field and you're tapping into consciousness and you're hearing the stories every single day, through direct experience, then other people that are sharing, people that they know that are needing help, then obviously the world isn't in the best place just now. It's not doing too good, would be the understatement of the year. And at that point, for me and this, this work, it's always about how can you help, how many people can you help, and that's the most frustrating part for me. That's the real big challenge that I face. My desire to give this, and what I see as well, and those that are really tight to this, those that are on about this, those that are doing the work every single day, those that are in the meditations every day and doing the breathing and living with intention and cleaning up a diet, and some of them are in such a good place just now. They're absolutely flying. So at that point, the frustration for me comes from the desire to be able to give that to everybody. Which again, maybe that's just madness, that even that desire to think that everybody could get it. As I say often, that the intention is to literally heal the world. Somebody needs to do it, and I don't mean me, but as a group, as a collective consciousness, there are so many light workers around just now, so it's going to be us. It's going to be those that are basically working towards that. You talk about desires and what you'd like to do with your life, that is my number one intention. Is to serve the divine, to work for God, to allow this work to come through me and to help as many people as possible. And I've always been really frustrated when I'm not able to do that, or even more frustrated when there are factors or people around about me that not that it's ever done with intention, but it's never done to the way that I would do it, or it's not done at the speed that I would like it to be done, or they'll maybe do it in a different way where I can see it maybe from a perspective they can't. So that's very challenging, and it's cost me so many people over the years. It really has. This mission that I'm on, and I need to remember as well, this is my 28th year of doing this, and the level that I'm at in terms of how deep I'm into this and how committed I am, to the way, to the truth, to the light, to the divine, to consciousness, to the way that it's meant to be. It's really naive of me to even think that anybody would be coming in, even after half a dozen years, and have the same level of intensity, and the same, the intentions might be the same, but in terms of what it actually takes to enable that to happen, and that's something again that's cost me so many people over the years. The amount of people that I've stood beside in some way, and then only to get a wee bit into it and you realise that their agendas or their intentions or how they do it or their ego and they would probably say the exact same thing about me, but the way that I defend that is because of my experience with the divine, and for the greatest good. It's always for the greatest good for me, and a lot of the times when people are on the road of that, they need to go. I need to take them out of my life when I can see their ego, or the Wim Hof's a big one. The Wim Hof method and the whole Heal Scotland thing, where they were trying to share the Wim Hof method and still teach people that, hyperventilation and stressful breathing after COVID. That for me was a time where it basically had run its day. It was done and dusted because of the virus and the vaccine. People were already no well, and then you add in a combination, both either or those, And the massive decline that I saw straight after that, and the negative impact it was having on people doing that type of breath work. And then when I learned how you're supposed to breathe properly with Patrick McFadyen, what functional breathing actually is, and then how that fed into my system of intentional breath work with the desire to get back in and reconnect back into your heart and back into your soul. When the Heal Scotland, when that movement was all about pushing the Wim Hof method and literally blowing your brains out, with stress, and that's a trip, So at that point, who's it serving? Who does it benefit? And do I want to stand beside it? It was just another brick in the wall for me. I had to go. I had to basically make a choice of, is this for the greatest good? Is this serving people the way that it had done for me back in 2016? At that point, I really felt it was a force for good, but. With the evolution or the stuff that came through, within the world and the escalation of the insanity, then at some point you've got to really keep asking those questions. Is it for the greatest good? Who's benefiting from it? Is there ego involved? And at that point, to step away. So the world's broken. There's no question about it. So many people are decimated. The amount of stories that I hear, and you choose your trauma. Everybody's got almost everybody has got some kind of trauma. Because of the nature of my work, and the people that I suppose are drawn to me, I seem to hear the heavy stuff. The amount of people that I know that have been through, sexual abuse as a child. Normally on the back of that, there's the physical abuse as well, and the mental abuse, and the emotional abuse. Especially within an environment that's toxic. Parents, the carers, the people that are looking after them, if they're going through their own challenges, the people that are trying to look after them, then obviously it's going to get paid forward and paid on to the wains, and then all of a sudden 20, 30, 40 years later, you meet these people that have been through hell as a child. And I suppose understanding what I now know and what I've learned over the years, in terms of the negative impact that can have on you at certain stages and ages of your life, especially at 7 years old, then I'm all about, when that happens to somebody. And again, speaking from my own experience, when you go through something like whatever that is, that heavy, dark stuff that can't really be fixed. That's what they say. You can't fix it, and traditional therapy doesn't fix it, and the pills and medication, they just suppress it and they stop it. They make it worse because it needs to be expressed, so the challenge of when it's been, people are growing up and there's no fix and there's no solution and there's no way out of it, then a lot of the times, there's a couple of different ways it normally plays out. Either they'll continue that behaviour that's happened to them, which is, again, it's not their fault, and I'll always look to the previous generation. What happened to them that enable them to behave the way that they did? So a lot of the time you need to be asking they kind of questions, because you don't just kind of pick that stuff up. It's not something you're born with, I don't believe, unless it comes in, as an imprint in your karma or samskaras for a previous life. But when it's getting paid forward, and I'm a great believer the way that this work, one of the massive benefits in it, and the real kind of what it's really all about for somebody in that situation is breaking the chains. We need to break the chains so that it doesn't get paid forward. If you come from a parents that have been alcoholics or drug addicts, or in sexual abuse and physical abuse, and you grew up in that environment, for a human being to go through that, and then not to pay it forward, but then to go through the intentional healing journey by doing this work, and then getting out the other side of it and not paying it forward and becoming the exact opposite of that. That's obviously how you would like it to be for everybody, but that's absolutely available. But it's a really difficult road, and it's one that it's not a lot of people. Well, there's not enough people getting around about it. First and foremost, but it's a path and a road and a destination that so few people seem to find in the world. And contrary to that, what I see with the people that go around about it, the people that come in with all of that, and they start to go around about this, then they can absolutely break the chains so that it doesn't get paid forward. That's one of the most rewarding things about this work, is when you actually you find somebody and you enable them with the tools and the techniques and this way of living and being, the program, the system, all the stuff that we do, and they're enabled to basically transcend whatever it is that happened to them and get beyond it, and then every great story the heroic journey from decimation, and that is decimation when somebody goes through stuff like that as a child. If they're able to come through that and get through the other side of that, they become the hero. At that point, the heroic story, the journey from the darkness and decimation all the way back to the light and back to the truth, so that they become, an absolute example instead of a warning. So many people end up a warning that go through stuff like that. And never get to recover, and in fact pay it forward, and then the dark hole in the world and all the kind of the darkness just continues on and on and on, doesn't it? So that's something that needs to be broken, absolutely. So I always see it like casualties of war, especially the young ones, children in their 20s and their 30s. It goes for everybody, if you've been through a challenging situation and life's affected you and it wasn't your fault, which most of the things aren't. We come into this world as children of God, we come in divine perfection, we come in with the essence of divinity inside of us, and depending on how long you're able to get through this life without that getting basically tampered with or affected, or in a lot of cases taken away from you by the separation process, the separation game as I call it, then it's really, really difficult for people to how do you find your way back to that? And that's what this work is all about, is how you find your way back. Because if you came in with it, and and the divinity is inside of you, nothing's changed there. All the stuff that's happened to you in this lifetime, that's just the stuff that happens to you. But at the same time, the source, the essence, the divinity that you carry in your heart and your soul, that's still there. And there may be damage to the physical, there may be damage to the emotional self, absolutely to the physical self as well, energetically, absolutely, and things like broken hearts and, broken spirits, I get all of that, but the presence of the divine, the bit that's deep inside of us, the bit that we carry in our soul, for that to be affected, I don't think that it can be. I really don't. I don't feel that that still is pure, and it's buried deep inside. And the fact that no many people know how to access it, and they basically go through it on the surface level, that's obviously one of the biggest challenges we face. Because if we can get to that and we connect back into that, then that's where the healing takes place. That's the only way I do believe that for a lot of this stuff, the healing takes place. And for me, seeing the victims, of this world and seeing them struggling, especially when they get to the point where they're on medication, or they've got a system that lets them down in terms of it's inadequate and it doesn't work. The therapies that they're trying to do, like talking therapies, what I know about, stuff that's happened to you, if you relive it and you talk about it and you bring it up, I would allow that probably once just so I can hear where somebody is and what they've been through. But after that, it doesn't serve you if you continue to relive it. And that's where a lot of these, therapists, a lot of the kind of psychotherapists, which is just as psychotic to me the way that it's done. But reliving, and because when you relive it and you think about it and you generate the chemistry, the unconscious mind believes that it's real. So you're literally recreating that chemistry and that experience over and over and over again, and looking for solutions within that space. It's impossible. It's the complete opposite end. You need to acknowledge what's happened and what's taking place. But once you do that, then the healing, then the solutions, then the way out of that is obviously in the opposite direction. So at that point, get your story up and get it out, but then we need to replace it. And that's where the divine, reconnection back to the divine. That's why the whole reset and reconnect, back to the way that it's meant to be. That's what this whole, process is all about. It's about remembering the power that's inside of you, which I do believe is incorruptible. In the deepest kind of depths of your soul, where you carry that piece of God, with the bit that you come in with. It doesn't matter what's happened to you. If you reconnect back to that, then there is a way out of it, and there is a way back to the way that it's meant to be. And it might not be because of what you're carrying from your human experience, it might not be the way you would have liked it to be, because you've obviously got the memories and all the stuff that came for that, and the kind of the shadows, I suppose, that are in there. But at the same time, it's like the ability to be okay with that and get beyond it and start to see it from different perspectives and different levels of consciousness, and that's the only way I do believe you get beyond this. So it's a fascinating time we're in. There are so many people that are struggling, so many people that are broke, so many people are down and out worldwide, and it's getting worse. That's the challenge. The amount of children just now that are suffering, young children that are suffering with all the different autisms, all the different attention deficit disorders, which is stress. And again, we've got to be asking where is the stress is coming from. This world is getting more and more stressful every single day, by design, I would say. We only need to look at what goes into the baby's vaccines, what goes into the needles, right to the beginning. And I think back, and I've had this, probably an argument a couple of times before, where when I was young, I'm 53 now, so going back probably the best part of 45 years, and autism wasn't a thing. It didn't really exist. There was obviously specific disabilities or special needs, or people that were born with some sort of a genetic defect or some sort of illness that they brought into this world. But in terms of at school, and even into high school, there was must be over 1,000 people. In fact, many was in my high school. It must be more than that. It could be maybe 3,000 people in my high school. And that's a really huge chunk. And there was probably from every school, I don't know how many, but there'd be single figures of children that had probably special needs and maybe went to a different school. But in the grand scheme of things, everybody was more or less the same in terms of, and people were mental. I mean, mental in terms of like just fun, like fun mental, like causing trouble and fighting, and but there was certainly nobody like dealing with anxiety, or I don't remember a single panic attack. I don't remember anybody like being so ill with mental health and stress that they couldn't come to school. And things like depression, people on antidepressants, that wasn't a thing. People on like anti-anxiety medications, that certainly was something that, and I had a couple of people that were nervous and things like that, but it was on the whole, and that was the general population back then. That was from all the towns in the surrounding area, from Lanark, Kaluk up to Shotts and Yemaines and Wishaw. There was none of that. There was no autism. There was nobody that was, in a point where they couldn't sit in a class and couldn't control their attention for a period of time. So that there's something changed over the last kind of 45 years. Of course there is. When you look at and we just need to check in and see how we're doing, how's it going. And you can see it very, very clearly. The amount of kids, anywhere you are, you can be, the amount of times you're in a shop, and I hear it as well because of people that I know that are in childcare, the profession of looking after from kindergarten right up to high school and universities as well. And the challenges that the children are facing now, we need to ask, where is it coming from? Where are the stresses? Where is the strain? where is the inflammation in the body? What is it that's causing this? And it's very easy and clear to identify what that is, So at that point, you need to be, looking at, all right, okay, why is that happening? Is it done by design? Why did they not know this? They, in terms of the people that own the place, the governments that run it, and, the healthcare professionals, and, the doctors that are dishing out the medications, because with that in itself, the question needs to be, is this working for you, yes or no? And I can't tell you the amount of people that I've heard very, very recently, over the last year probably, that they'll go to the doctor with some sort of physical ailment, and before you know it, they've been banged onto all sorts of medication, and the addiction in itself that comes for that, by even the detrimental effect it can have on the physical body, what it's doing to your liver, what it's doing to your kidneys, but the physical addiction, the mental addiction, the need to think that just because you talk about the placebo effect, when a doctor says to you, this is what you need, I mean, they're literally programming you, and it's amazing how many people are actually still buy into that system just because the doctor says this is the best thing. And I could tell you a dozen stories of people that are now on 3, 4, 5 pills because they went to the doctor with something that had nothing to do with anxiety, nothing to do with depression, and before you know it, they're on like 2 or 3 different anti-psych and antidepressant pills and can't get off them, and you're like, what is this all about? And the doctors themselves, you've got to be questioning them, as bright as they are. I mean, Jesus Christ, how does that go together? How can they believe, just because they've been trained, because they've been programmed, because they've been literally brainwashed, is that this is the only way to fix it? The fact that doctors are not teaching like breath work, the fact that doctors are not like looking at your nervous system and identifying that like where the stress is coming from, and then giving you first and foremost holistic practices as to switch off your nervous system. One of the most important things that any human being can do is the ability to switch off stress. To take your body from fight and flight, which is the cause, stress response, stress within the body. That's the cause of every disease, almost every single disease comes from stress, chronic stress at a cellular level. You know, when the stress gets out of balance, when the cells within the body and the stress that comes in takes the body out of balance and the body gets out of coherence, then it's compromised, and the body's always trying to find its way back to homeostasis. You know, so it's always trying to find itself back to that even keel. You know, so at that point, what's the way to do that? Well, for over 100 years, I've known that breath work, you know, is the way that you can influence this autonomic system, your autonomic nervous system. You're actually able to influence that. It's not automatic in every way. In some ways it is, you know, how the autonomic nervous system controls your heart and how it controls, you know, the different chemistry within your blood. You can absolutely influence that, you know, and that's where when I discovered breathwork and the power of breath, right, and back in 2016 with Wim Hof, and talking about the breathwork and the ability to influence your nervous system and your stress response and your immune system, it's like, holy fuck, that changed my life. Because from the age of 13 up until probably 44, 45, I was in chronic stress, couldn't sleep, overactive mind, worried all the time, had that inability to switch off my mind, which helped me in some ways because of the spiritual journey I was on, you know, just that inability to sleep and just up and doing 3, 4, 5 hours meditation at a time every single day that got me to the place that I got to. But at the same time, it's like, I think back to the amount of things that it cost me and the physical health and life force that it's cost me over the years, all that nervous energy, the amount of unnecessary elevated like heartbeats that I've had over my lifetime, just because I didn't know how to breathe properly. You know, and then when you listen to Patrick McFadyen talking about how this information, some of this information has been known for over 100 years. You know, why it's so important to keep your mouth closed, why the number one cause of basically tooth decay is mouth breathing, you know, how it's impossible for any human being, any child, anybody to reach their full potential if you're breathing in and out through your mouth. Why? Because you're generating fucking stress. You know, so when stress causes all the illness and all the disease, just about every single bit of it, you know, and you've got the innate ability within yourself to do something about that, just by learning how to breathe in and out through your nose with proper function, and that information's there, and the doctors are not giving it. Either they don't know, which probably, that's probably the reason is why they don't do it, but at the same time, surely there must be, I mean, what do we do? What do we need to do to get that out there so that people can learn this basic function? It's the one thing that every single one of us has to do. It's the only thing that's basically, no matter what your race is, no matter what where you're coming from in the world, your belief system, we all need to breathe. You know, and we can have different diets and different religions but breathing that's the life force. And the reason we breathe is to generate life force. That's to generate your energy within like every single thing you do, to growing your nails, to digesting your food, to thinking. It takes the breath. You know, so if there's a way of doing that properly and functionally so that the cells within the body and all the 12 systems of the body and the 50 trillion plus cells within the body benefit, and even just the simple fact of switching off your stress, and then how that feeds into how you sleep and how that feeds into how you don't think, you know, the ability to not think. I remember Deepak Chopra saying human beings are blessed with the ability to think, but even greater is the ability to not think. You know, so it's hugely frustrating when you see the challenges that people face. And even more frustrating when you know there's a way to fix it, and then, you know, the challenge then becomes like how much can we do, how much can I do, how quick can I get it out there, how many people can we help, because seeing other people suffering, you know, the compassion that I have for other human beings, it breaks my heart. It literally breaks my heart when I see a Wayne coming in, you know, in their teens or in their 20s, and the only thing that's really wrong with them is chronic stress and inflammation, and they don't know how to switch it off, you know, and they're basically in this absolute tizzy, upside down and back to front, because their immune system and their, you know, inflammatory response and their stress response within their body is basically firing at all times, and they don't know how to turn it off. And I see miracles take place inside probably a couple of hours when you actually just teach them to breathe properly, and get them to shut the fuck up in terms of stopping thinking, and quiet the mind so they experience peace of mind. And then at that point, you know, with a wee bit of intention, you can then reconnect them back into themselves, you know, back into the moment, which is the only thing we have, back into, you know, this generous present moment, as Joe Dispenza calls it. It's all we've got. You know, our whole life is by either in the future, you know, worrying about stuff that might never happen, or hoping it doesn't happen, or looking back at the past with regret, you know. So we spend our whole life in hypnosis, you know. At the same time, this intentional journey, that become awake and aware and present, so you can soak it in, so you can actually like savour your life experience. And that's impossible if you're under stress. That was my whole life, being under stress. I think back to, you know, when I started doing triathlon, the first ever Ironman that I did, well, half Ironman distance, was up at the Scottish Championships. And the night before it, and I trained for about a year. I'd signed up for a full Ironman. That was coming up I believe that was coming up maybe 6 months later, so I decided to do a half Ironman before it. And it was end of summer up in Loch Tay. It was freezing cold, teeming down with rain, and the whole night before it, the entire night before it, that was my entire athletic career. When I played football, any time after I got that vaccine at 13, any time I would basically find myself in an overstressed, stressful situation, a cup final the next day, or a trial, or I remember going to the Scotland trials and I was under 15, and the stress I was under because I couldn't manage my nervous system. I couldn't switch myself off. I literally couldn't sleep. First half Ironman I did, the whole night I was up, basically like with worry and stress and overthinking and just anxiety because I didn't know how to basically calm myself down and switch off my nervous system. And fast forward to 8:30, 9 o'clock the next morning when I'm in Loch Tay, freezing cold. And the swim, so it's a 2.4, so 1.2 mile swim, a half Ironman, and freezing. I think it was almost single figures of water that day, and I took cramp for the neck down, which I used to get a lot when I was playing football after the vaccine when I was probably 14, 15 when I came back. I took cramp for the neck down, and the minute you get assistance when you're doing any kind of those triathlon events and you're out the race, and I was training like probably 25, 30 hours a week at the time, so I was able to do it. There was no question at all I was going to do it. But I remember a seahorse, like being a seahorse, like seahorsing it to get out the water for the last probably 100 metres because of the cramp I'd experienced all over my body, and then jumping onto the bike. Just an absolute bag of spanners, stressed out my nut, like all sorts of stress hormones in my system, freezing cold. I mean, talk about taking away your life force, taking away your life energy. And, what I did, all because I couldn't manage my nervous system before it, all because I didn't know how to control myself basically before it, So one of the biggest things that is breathwork. That's why I'm so passionate about breathwork. That's why, what I see with breathing, every single time that somebody either sits down or lies down in front of me, and I'm absolutely, honoured and the gift that I'm given to be able to give these gifts to other people is to let them find and discover what I discovered, the power of the breath, functional breathing, absolutely how you're supposed to breathe. And it isn't the Wim Hof method. It's not, if you want to go and jump in an ice bath, you don't need to do that. Wim was I don't even know where he is now, I've not seen him for that long, but an absolute adrenaline junkie, and full of shit in all those different ways, all the different records and all the bullshit that went with him. So that type of breathing, that's done and dusted. That's not for almost anybody. I laugh when I see the Wim Hof community, how they're still pushing like massive breath holds, and how and you look on their page, and it's still people like showing off like how long they can hold their breath for, which is so dangerous. And at that point, somebody within that organisation needs to go, come on, what are we actually doing here? Like, put your hands up and say, like, this is actually not right. I remember, on one occasion, I used to do a class down a Friday night down in Wishaw, and the reason you can hold your breath for a long period of time, when you basically breathe in and breathe out and you hyperventilate, you basically breathe off all the carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is a primary stimulus for your brain's signal to basically respond to breathe. So when you breathe out and you hold your breath, the desire to breathe does not come from a lack of oxygen in your system. It comes from the body's sensitivity to CO2 building up. So if you hyperventilate, breathe out all your CO2, then obviously it takes a long while for that CO2 to build up within your system that it signals the brain and tells you it's time to breathe. I remember 2 lads one night, like 10 minutes in retention, like holding their breath. And at the time I was just trained with Wim not that long. I thought this was great. I was like, this was a really success. And then years later when I trained with Patrick McFadyen, I was like, oh my God, man, I dodged a bullet there. Because the constriction that takes place in the heart, the constriction that takes place in the brain, the deaths that are taking place worldwide, shallow water blackout, when you do that and you put your face in the water, and there's so little CO2 that it basically switches you off, and the first thing you do, your brain kicks in and tells you to breathe in, and you breathe in, and the first thing you do is you breathe in a big lung full, mouth full, stomach full of water, and you drown. So, and that's the stuff that we were being taught, and Wim was still teaching it, he was still sharing that with people. So that isn't the way to do it, obviously. But functional breathing, how we're supposed to breathe, how we're supposed to get the chemistry correct, how we're supposed to, get the correct, how we get the biomechanics, so how you breathe properly, which is basically diaphragmic breathing. When you breathe through your mouth, and that's where I'm still surprised when I hear Wim saying it doesn't matter if it comes in through your nose or your mouth. When you breathe in through your mouth, it generates stress. You breathe in through your mouth, the top of your lungs open up, and that takes you straight in the sympathetic nervous system. So that's you get stress, more stress in your system. So it does matter how you breathe in and where you breathe in through, and it's all meant to be nasal breathing. One of the latest videos that Patrick put up, there's over 31 scientifically proven benefits to nasal breathing, and there's only one benefit to mouth breathing, and that one benefit to mouth breathing is to generate stress. So at that point, it does matter how you breathe. So to breathe with function, to change your chemistry properly so there's a balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide, and then to take it in the correct portions of your lungs so you can actually uncouple it and use and get the gas exchange for your life force, which is really important. And then when you basically slow that down and you start to basically bring yourself back into balance, every single cell in your body is going to get better so quickly you can't even imagine. And that's something you're doing anyway, so that's a superpower. I teach Wayne's, it's a superpower. You got up your cough, nobody can see how you're breathing. So to breathe with proper function, and then to breathe with intention, to use that intentional breath to get back inside yourself, it's such a gift, and it happens so quickly. And it should be a starter for 10 for the medical professionals and the doctors that are basically like trying to get us back. At least that should be their job, to try and get us back to health and well-being. But the minute they're starting to chuck in pills and chuck in all these therapies that don't work, then they are absolutely, they're in the wrong, and we are compromised. Excuse me a second. So this way of living, this way of being, this journey, me with this stuff that I do, it's no easy, and I'm absolutely mental with this. I really am. I'm so passionate about it, and I'm so enthused about it. And I think for me as well, it's a lot of the stuff that people see online. There's two sides to me. There's definitely the spiritual side, what I've experienced in meditation, what I experienced this morning, what I experienced every morning, more or less, in meditation, that connection with God, the divinity. It's amazing how many people still don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about God, and they think I'm talking about religion, and that's hilarious to me now at this point. And I can't reel it in, I can't basically look, and we're now doing corporate stuff, and I can feel, and one of the girls that's involved in it yesterday said, this is going to cost you corporate work, and it's like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. The divinity that's inside every single one of us is something that needs to be made public to everybody. It's the one thing that fixes everything, and for what I've experienced and what it's done for my life, and what I've been able to help people and share it with them and teach people and coach them how to experience what it means to have a relationship with the divine, which is a relationship with yourself. How can you basically, I don't dance for anybody, that's one of the reasons that I've felt it with so many people as well. It's like, this is the truth, this is the way, this isn't my way. This mission I'm on, it's a divine mission, but it's no me. I'm here to help it, I'm here to be part of it, I'm here to try and take it to the world the best that I can. And the two sides to me, there's very much the spiritual side. As Wayne Dyer, are you a human being having a spiritual experience? Are you a spiritual being having a human experience? Well, you're both, aren't you? So that spiritual being going through this life, it's easy between 3:30, 4 o'clock this morning, sitting in meditation. The world is just absolutely incredible, but at the same time, when I come back, and you come back into reality, and you're having to deal with all the stuff I've been speaking about, and you see the horrors of the world and how people have been affected by it. And this is where, the yin and yang to me, that's the only way I can do it. And I feel really I'm brutal with it. To be honest, I'm absolutely brutal with it. I'm completely black and white, but I always have been. And it's really detrimental in some ways, especially to some of the people that are around about it with me. And even just this week, my desire to get it to the world, and then me being frustrated because it isn't happening the way that I feel that it should be in terms of how we can get it out quicker and help as many people. When I get to a place where the choice becomes, and it's not even really a choice, but for me to speak my truth, and to see the challenges that I see in other people who are not maybe at the same level as I'm at, which isn't fair, I get that. But at this hour that we're in just now, and how fucked the world is, and how how many people are suffering, anything other than this work I am not interested in. I really am not. I couldn't care about anything else. I don't care about the success and money and all the things that basically turn on almost everybody on the planet. This world is trapped in the throes of the ego, so the desire to get things and the desire to be successful and to have your profile and all that kind of stuff, where everybody is. That's where almost everybody is. And again, I've been doing this 28 years, and that's where I was a long time ago. In my 20s, before this happened to me, that's where I was as well. I thought the answers were going to be in a new Porsche, and the ability to buy whatever watch I wanted, and living that life at holiday homes, and that was absolutely what I termed to be success. But the journey I've been on, and seeing the horrors of the world, and how do we fix it? unless this is to do with the divine way, unless that's the mission, in terms of how we fix it, and in terms of reconnecting back to God, and back to the truth, and back to the light, and back to the grace, and all the stuff that fixes it. There's nothing else in this world I'm interested in, and that's really unfair. It is for those that are still, in between two worlds, especially those that have only been on it a wee bit of time. And it's difficult for me, because when I come back and I see things that aren't basically the way I'd like them to be, then I need to speak my truth. And it's almost like Jim, the human being, doesn't have a control over it. And that's why, for the greatest good, everything I do is for the greatest good. And that costs me a lot of people, it really does. And that's hard sometimes. When people basically come and they leave and they get out of my life because I'm too much with it. But the hour is so late, and when you see the horrors of the world, and you see the damage that the circus is doing to people, and you've got a solution in terms of how to fix it, it's like zero tolerance. It's completely black and white. It's like, this is the only way that's going to work. So anything other than this, I have no time for at all. I remember a story from Babaji from the Saj Mark system, and one of his devotees basically asked him, why is that all you talk about is God? Why do you only talk about God? And his answer was incredible. His answer was like, what else is there? And I'm not at that level. I'm not quite at that bit, but most of my life, most of my waking day is about this mission. It's about the way. It's about getting the world back to the way that it's meant to be. And that is the divine way, So at that point, anything other than that, I'm really sorry, but I've no time for it. It's a distraction, and it's done by design, to keep us separate from, how it's meant to be. This should be heaven and earth. This planet we are on, and all the resources that we used to have, a lot of them are gone now. In terms of the the natural resources that have been polluted and not ruined, because of the world and Mother Nature will find its way back to the way it's meant to be. But in terms of extinction and animals and what we've done to this planet, I've said on here many times before, man's biggest sin is what we've done to this world through ignorance. Most of us do not know the damage that we're doing because of convenience, because of how it's been sold to us. So it's a hugely challenging time. And it's a time where there is only one way to fix it, and anything other than this way, I really struggle with it. I really do, and I'm not apologising. I'm really not because it's not me. It's the way that it needs to be to go back to the way to fix it. There is only one way, and this work is a bridge towards that way. So it's very difficult in some ways, and it's so easy in others, because the truth sets us free. And those that don't like it, those in the past that have been run about it and can't handle it, I get it, man. I get how it's too much, and I've just got to keep having faith in what I'm doing, and the guidance that I'm receiving every single day through inspiration that are coming through in the meditations, and the people that are showing up, and the people that stand beside me. Michael, the infernal that work with him, they get the worst of it. Because they're in the team, they're right in the inner circle, and I have so much love for both of them, you have no idea. But some of the stuff that will come through with my desire to help, and their desire to help, and and I get a chance to vent myself, and it comes through in certain ways. And the fact that Michael is still with me and still standing beside me is like, that's the mission. This is for the greatest good. It's so much bigger than me. This is so much bigger than any of us. This mission that we are on, the desire is to heal the world, is to help the world and help people, help human beings get back to the way that it's meant to be. So it's just so privileged and so proud that the people that have shown up can take it, because it's tough roads ahead. It's going to get difficult. It's going to get harder, and these people that are showing up, that are standing beside me, for all my flaws and the way that it comes through me sometimes. I remember my wife saying a long time ago, like when we just met, her mama used to say to her that, you hurt the ones you love the most. Because you can be yourself and because you can speak your truth. Obviously people that don't know them, they get a different version of you. But there is absolutely two sides to me. There's a spiritual side, and then there's the fucking it's no easy. It really is. It's very challenging. So really grateful for those that are beside me, all of them, the whole team, the inner circle. I had a message with Mark Burns as well. The beginning of the week, Mark sent me a message early on Monday morning, and the message I responded to him, I was sitting just about to get into meditation, and the question he asked me, and I was like, and it's just this bang, like fucking scream, and he took it as well, so it's like, it's very difficult, and that's not my intention, because when you come back onto an even keel, and it's like when Murphy, she's lying under the table, when she'll basically get caught up in something, she'll chase a squirrel, or she'll want to attack a cat, and then you get her out because she's put herself in danger, in some way, maybe she's close to a road or whatever. and she comes back, and or she'll go for, she'll maybe get a sock or that, and you go to the mind to try and take a sock off it, and in the past she would have went for you, you know, which, and I'm her master, you know, so that doesn't happen, you know, and I'll put her right in her place straight away, like, absolutely I will, and she'll snap out it as if like, holy fuck, what just happened? That's kind of what I feel like, you know, when this comes through me and I express where I'm at, and it's like, here's the fucking truth, like, what the fuck, why you no fucking there, let's get fucking on with this, are we doing this, aye or no, like, I want everybody to be the same as me, but then when that basically dissipates through me and it's too late because I've already sent the text, I've already left the voicemail, and the damage that ensues with that is, I'm so sorry in so many ways, but at the same time it's like the mission and the truth that needs to be done to get us to where we need to go, you know. I then find myself like, oh man, fucking hell, like getting back to normal, and the last thing I want to do is to hurt anybody, it isn't, you know, but for the greatest good, for this mission, you know, the hour is late, you know, the divine way. It's difficult times, you know, and the hour is very, very late, you know, so unfortunately that's just the way that it comes through sometimes. So it's no easy, and it's fascinating watching it, you know, the entire circus. How long have I been saying now, like, fuck the circus, I'm not interested in any of it, not a single bit of it, I couldn't care. Nothing really impresses me. The amount of people that are still online talking about like being successful and earning, I'm like, what planet are you on? Like, what, are you still at that stage of the game? Like, fuck off, you know, that's we're way beyond that. If you're still trying to get it for yourself, even like the amount of coaches that are still like want to be the man and want to like fucking come and get it for me, like, we're way beyond that. It's so far gone, it's broken almost beyond repair. You know, so that's the circus, that's the ego, that's the lower self, like trying to gain the significance and have self-gain for your own life's journey. That's all the ego, you know, and at that stage, I'm out, you know, I'm not interested. I can't be involved in that in any way, shape or form. It needs to be for the greatest good. It needs to be, you know, for the truth, for the light, for the way it's meant to be, you know, for God's way, for the way of the field, for the way of consciousness, you know, to get the world back into balance. That's what it's all about, that's all I'm about. So at that point, there only is really God in a divine way, and anything else I'm not interested in, you know, and that's very, very difficult, I get that, you know. So really, really grateful for those that are beside me, especially those that get to see the other side to me, you know, the kind of, it's no darkness, you know, it's a truthful side, it's a brutal, truthful side, and the truth absolutely hurts, but it sets us free. And my intention is never to hurt, you know, but I'm so grateful for those that are still beside me and standing beside me as we continue to do our best to try and take this mission to the world, you know. So for the truth, for the way, for the light, for the solutions, there is a solution. It doesn't matter where you're at, it doesn't matter what you're coming in with, it doesn't matter how bad it is or how bad it's been, it doesn't matter where you've been. It doesn't even matter where you're at just now, it's where you're going, and it's where we're going as a species, and that's the important part, you know. In this time of great contrast, this time of great suffering, this time of great pain and inflammation on every level, there's so many ways that you can't even imagine, or even begin to kind of calculate or take stock of. All the while, there is a way that's inside every single one of us that we were born into this world with. The divine presence that we carry inside of us. When we reconnect back to that everything gets better. You know, when you remember, nothing to learn, it's all about remembering. When you remember the power that you carry inside of you, it's amazing. Every single ailment, every single dis-ease, every single challenge that you're facing, it goes, it's away, it disappears, you know, because you remember the power that's inside of you. And that's where meditation, that's where, you know, the intentional life, that's what it's all about. And for the greatest good, you know, so we can get it back to the way that it's meant to be. This should be heaven and earth. It should be, everything we've got, this world should be fantastic, and it isn't. And that's been done by design. I don't know how far back that goes. I don't know when it fell into the kind of throes and the kind of hold of darkness. But I do know that there's a wave of light coming through just now. There's a wave of awareness in people who are working in the light with the desire, you know, to make it better. And there's enough of us, you know, it's power versus force. And this is where the internet, this is where, even though I do believe it's probably brought into the world for negative, you know, for the wrong side of intention, in terms of for the dark side of the force, to probably spy on you and see what you're up to, you know, but the goodness that's in it, you know, the connections that are now able to be made on a worldwide scale, you know, it's there's a real wave of optimism that I feel. And it's hard work, and it isn't easy, and it's got so many challenges, you know, but it's power over force. That's the way that it needs to be. The power that's in the divine, the power that we carry inside of us, when we can, you know, tap into that and we combine as a collective. I remember the film Ants when the Waynes were, and it's a film I must have watched it 30 times, never seen it all the way through. Probably been up half the night with the Waynes and then sleeping during it, and never seen it all the way through. But the big locusts, I think the locusts that are basically they're in control of the ants. And one of the wee ant that's basically rebelling, and the second the command says to the chief locust, like, there's only one ant, and they're in this kind of bar at the time, and in the bar there's this like big glass jar, and it's got something like, it's got treats or snacks that the locust would basically, so it might be the equivalent of a nut or something that you would basically have that we would eat, if you're in a bar, and God bless you. And the guy, the second the command says to the chief, it's like, what are you worried about? It's only one ant. And they're standing at the lever that basically pulls up the opening to this glass container, and he basically yanks it up, and obviously there's thousands of these, whatever they are, I can't remember what they are, it might be seeds or something that are in this container, and they basically pour out, and it basically takes them away, and it basically washes the guy away. So it's the combined, forces. I won person on their own, it isn't enough, but you add 10, 15, 20, 30,000, 50,000, a million people, and we combine together in the light and the truth with the way, with that power, reconnected back to that power of the divine that's inside you, and then you add into that everything else that's coming through just now, then it's power versus force, and the force and the trickery. This world is in free fall just now. All the systems are coming down. The financial system has been broken for so long. The debt-based system in terms of, us own the banks and the banks owning us, that's gone, that's done and dusted, that's in free fall just now. You can see what's happening in America. So it's the Great Reset, I believe, is a divine reset. And the power that's coming through within the light, within the truth, within the way to get back to the way that it's meant to be, that's what it's all about. And at that point, there's nothing to fear. And it's really exciting, so... It's all good. Inwards and upwards as one, as always. We do our best every single day to get it for yourself. That's what it's all about, to tend to yourself, the true self, the authentic self, not the lower self. I'm not talking about motivation and get out and finding ways to rip people off and make more money so you can get it for your lower self. None of that. It's the higher self, it's the divine self, it's the true self, the authentic you, the bit that can never die. That's what it's all about. It's tending to that and being in spirit and being inspired. So that you can then, get on side and let's, get this across the line and get it back to the way that it's meant to be. For the greatest good always, my sisters and brothers, love and light from me and you. Thanks again for tuning in. I will see you all very soon. Peace out, God bless, and bye for now.